What if I told you that the biggest financial trap in America does not look like poverty? It looks like success. Nobody warns you about it because most people are trapped inside it themselves. The car, the clothes, the apartment, the constant need to prove that you are doing well. It feels like ambition, but it quietly drains decades of your life one purchase at a time. I have watched generations of hardworking people chase the appearance of wealth while never actually building it, confusing visible success with real freedom. And the most dangerous part is that when you are inside the trap, it does not feel like destruction, it feels rewarding. That is why so many people spend their entire lives buying things that impress strangers while remaining financially fragile underneath it all. There is a fundamental difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. And in many cases, those two things are complete opposites. Every dollar spent proving success to other people is a dollar no longer working for your future. The man who spends $40,000 on a car he cannot truly afford is not just poorer by $40,000. He is poorer by every investment that money could have become, every crisis it could have softened, every year of freedom it could have purchased later in life. He did not buy an asset, he bought a signal. And signals begin losing value the moment the world sees them. The second trap, and this one is more dangerous because it moves slowly, like water rising, is what some call lifestyle creep. When your income rises, the mind tells you very convincingly that your life should rise with it. A better apartment, a nicer restaurant, clothes that match your new title. Each decision taken alone seems reasonable. But underneath the feeling of reward, your fixed costs are climbing and your baseline is shifting upward. The terrible truth about a rising baseline is that it does not come back down without a fight. Once you grow accustomed to a certain way of living, stepping back from it does not feel like financial wisdom. It feels like humiliation. So you hold on, you stretch, you reach for credit to bridge the gap between what you earn and what your life now costs. And before long, a person earning good money is one missed paycheck away from disaster. Now I want to show you one more mechanism because it is not weakness that causes it, it is psychology. It is called the Diderot effect, named after an 18th century philosopher who received an unexpected gift, a beautiful, expensive dressing gown. The moment he owned it, everything around him looked wrong. The desk was shabby, the rug did not belong, the chair was beneath him. So he replaced them, one after another, each upgrade creating the need for the next, until he had spent everything and returned to poverty, surrounded by beautiful things he could no longer afford. Today, the algorithm does precisely what that gown did. You buy one thing, and within seconds, you are shown everything that now needs to match it. The purchase was designed to be a beginning, not an end. And beneath all of this runs the cruelest mechanism of all, something researchers call the hedonic treadmill. The human mind is not built for arrival, it is built for pursuit. Every time you reach the level you believed would satisfy you, your brain recalibrates and sets a new threshold. The new car becomes ordinary within weeks. The apartment becomes simply where you sleep. The achievement becomes the baseline. And so the hunger restarts. Not because you are ungrateful, but because your mind was built by millions of years of evolution to always reach for what is just ahead. The modern economy did not create this instinct. It simply learned to exploit it, selling you relief from the hunger while making sure the hunger never dies. I have named the mechanisms, now I will tell you what the wisest financial minds in history learned to do instead. These men understood something that most of the modern world still refuses to accept. An ancient teaching puts it plainly. A person without resources is like a person who does not fully exist because they cannot protect their family, cannot help those around them, and cannot act freely in any of the moments that actually matter. Poverty was never seen as noble or virtuous by the people I learned from. It was seen as a condition to escape because a man who is financially desperate is a man under the control of others. Wealth, properly understood, is not about accumulation. It is about the capacity to act, and the capacity to act is built not through display, but through discipline. The first question the wisest men asked themselves was not how to make more money. It was how to keep more of the money they already made. Because making money is a skill anyone can learn. Keeping it requires something rarer, the willingness to let the world underestimate you. Let me be direct now, because politeness on this subject has cost too many people too much for too long. The reason most people struggle financially has very little to do with income. It has to do with who they are spending for. Every advertisement ever made was not built to inform you. It was built to destabilize you, to create a gap between who you are and who you feel you should be, and then offer to close that gap for a price. Every platform you use is not a place to connect with other people. It is a machine that takes your insecurity and converts it into behavior, and that behavior almost always involves spending money. The engineers behind these systems understand human psychology with extraordinary precision. They know that the deepest fear most people carry is not poverty. It is invisibility, the fear of being seen as ordinary, the fear of being overlooked. They do not sell products, they sell relief from that fear. And since the fear never fully disappears, you keep going back over and over, paying for a feeling that never lasts long enough to justify what it costs. This is what I mean when I say they steal it with a mirror. They hold up an image of who you should be, who everyone can see you are not yet, and then show you the price of becoming that person, and you pay it not from desire, but from anxiety, not from joy, but from the brief relief of having temporarily closed the gap. That is not freedom, that is captivity, and it works precisely because you cannot see the bars. The wisest financial teaching on this subject is not complicated. It says this: a person who measures their standing by comparing themselves to those around them will never have a stable place to stand. They will always be adjusting, always reacting, always redirecting resources toward whatever the comparison demands. No strategy, only a mirror they cannot stop looking into. Real wealth is built by the person who stops looking sideways entirely, who identifies what they actually value, what genuinely serves their life and the people depending on them, and directs money there, ignoring everything else with the calm of someone who has decided they are not competing. Here is the practice that separates the two. Before any significant purchase, ask yourself honestly who you are buying it for. Imagine that no one you have ever met will see it, know you own it, or measure you against it. Would you still want it? If the answer is yes, buy it without guilt, because it is genuinely for you. If the answer is uncertain, you already have your answer. The gap between what people buy and what they would buy if no one was watching is exactly the amount of their financial life that belongs to other people's expectations. Shrink that gap, and you begin to keep money in a way that actually compounds. My father understood money the way some men understand weather, not from books, but from long observation and a refusal to be surprised. He used to say that announcing what you have is the first act of losing it, because noise is the substitute for substance. Whoever is truly building something says nothing about it. They protect it. They are patient with it. They know that what is growing is fragile and that the world is full of forces, some obvious, some subtle, that will try to extract what has been built through social expectation, through requests that feel impossible to refuse, through the quiet pressure of being seen to have more than others, which becomes a kind of tax on your relationships. The antidote is not hostility, it is discretion. It is the discipline to let the world form whatever impression it forms and to feel no need to correct it. One of the oldest and most precise pieces of financial wisdom I was ever given is simply this: silence is the fence around what you are building. Whoever does not reveal what they hold cannot be targeted for it. They move without the weight of other people's calculations pressed against every decision, free to negotiate from an unknown position, which is almost always the stronger one. For the people I learned from, this was not a philosophical preference. It was survival. Generations of builders discovered that the moment you show what you have accumulated, you invite forces designed to take it. The most durable wealth in history was almost always built quietly, held quietly, and passed down quietly. Every time you choose not to spend for an audience, you are not merely saving money. You are reclaiming a decision that had been taken from you. You are stepping out of a current that was pulling you in a direction you did not choose and placing yourself back on ground you own. That act, invisible, unremarkable, requiring no applause, is the foundation of everything that comes next. The distinction I want to make in this part is one that most people encounter too late, when the years where it mattered most have already passed. Someone who looks wealthy is accumulating things. Someone who is wealthy is accumulating something entirely different, and it has no price tag, cannot be photographed, and will never trend anywhere. They are accumulating time. They are accumulating security. They are accumulating the capacity to refuse, and when you reach the end of a life and look back at what actually mattered, you will find that those three things are the only purchases worth making. Time. First, when I say that genuine wealth buys time, I mean something very literal. You can recover lost money, you can replace a lost job, but the years spent in a situation that drains you, tolerating a disrespectful employer because you cannot afford not to, staying in a bad arrangement because leaving feels financially impossible, those years are gone. The person who has built real financial buffers does not have to accept every situation that presents itself. They can wait for the right one. They can say no without the ground shaking beneath them. I have known men who made more money in a year than most people see in a decade, and who were nonetheless completely stuck, because every dollar was already claimed, every commitment was already made, and the one thing money is supposed to buy, the ability to choose, had been entirely spent on appearances. The numbers looked impressive. The freedom was zero. Security. Second, one of the oldest frameworks for managing money that I ever encountered came from the same ancient tradition that shaped how I think about almost everything. Divide what you have into three. One part working in business or investment, one part in something stable and tangible like land or property, and one part held in reserve, untouched, undeployed, simply there. This is not timid advice. It is structural wisdom. The reserve is not sleeping money. It is the part that keeps you from ever having to negotiate from desperation. A person who holds that buffer can absorb a catastrophe and still have choices. They can sit across from someone who wants something from them and hold their ground, because they do not need the deal badly enough to accept bad terms. They can leave a situation that dishonors them, because the cost of leaving does not threaten their survival. That reserve of dignity is the difference between a life you own and a life that owns you. The capacity to refuse. Third, when people cannot see what you hold, they cannot calculate what to ask of you. They cannot calibrate their expectations around your resources. They treat you as a person rather than as a ledger. There is an old saying I have returned to many times: wisdom is a shelter exactly the way money is a shelter. But wisdom has one advantage: it preserves the person who carries it. Both protect, both create options, and neither one, when it is working correctly, needs to announce itself. Someone who genuinely knows what they are doing does not walk into a room explaining themselves. Someone who has built something real does not walk into a room showing it off. Both operate the same way, from a position of depth, like something rooted far below what anyone standing above can see. My father said something to me once in the way that truly important things are almost always said, without ceremony, without any indication that it was about to matter. He said, "Build in silence. The tree does not announce its roots." I was young, and I heard it politely, the way you hear something from an old man when you are convinced the real lessons are still somewhere out ahead of you, waiting to be discovered in a more dramatic form. It took years and several painful detours before I understood that he had already given me everything I needed and that I had been too impatient to receive it. The roots of a tree are its entire infrastructure. They pull the water, hold the ground, absorb the force of every storm, carry nutrients through decades of growth, and no one ever sees them. The tree does not require your awareness of the roots to function. It does not need acknowledgement. It simply does its work in the dark, without interruption. This is how lasting wealth is built, not in moments of visible success, not in purchases that invite admiration, in the quiet, repetitive, unglamorous accumulation of small decisions made correctly over a long period of time without anyone watching. The entire culture of financial display gets this exactly backwards. People broadcast their prosperity in order to feel it is real. They need the reaction of others to confirm that they have arrived at something worth arriving at. But real financial strength does not need confirmation from anyone. It lives in the numbers, in the choices available to you on an ordinary Tuesday morning, in the fact that you could walk away from things that no longer serve you and survive. The moment you stop needing outside confirmation of your worth is the moment you stop paying for it. And when you stop paying for it, you begin, sometimes for the first time, to actually build. A teaching I have carried for most of my adult life says that the highest form of generosity is not giving a person what they need in the moment, but placing them in a position where they no longer need to ask. I find that when I turn this inward, it describes the deepest purpose of financial discipline. Placing yourself in a position where you no longer live in need of anyone's approval, anyone's paycheck, anyone's tolerance of a situation you should have left long ago. This is what self-sufficiency actually means. Not wealth as a number, not freedom as an abstract concept. The concrete daily reality of waking up and knowing that your choices today belong to you, not to a debt, not to a dependency, not to the discomfort of someone who could cut you off the moment you stop playing by their rules. Contentment is the most misunderstood word in the conversation about money. People hear it as resignation, as giving up on wanting more, settling for less, surrendering ambition. That is not what I mean. The contentment I'm describing is a weapon. It is the chosen decision of someone who knows precisely what they value and refuses to be redirected towards something else. The algorithm needs your uncertainty to work on you. Social pressure needs your insecurity to pull you. The entire machinery of financial manipulation runs on the belief that you do not yet have what you need to feel complete. The moment you decide genuinely, not as theater, that your values are your own and that you will spend accordingly, you become largely immune. You can walk past the advertisement and feel nothing. You can watch someone around you upgrade everything they own and feel no pull, because you are measuring against an internal standard, and no external force can move a standard that is truly internal. One of the wisest men I ever read on the subject of money said this: "Wealth is not what you own, but what you share." I have thought about that sentence for many years. What strikes me most is not the generosity it implies, though that is real, but the freedom it describes. A man who defines wealth by what he gives rather than what he accumulates has stepped entirely off the treadmill. He has found a measure that cannot be manufactured by credit, cannot be faked by display, and cannot be taken by the opinion of anyone watching. It is a measure that belongs to him completely. The oldest and most tested answer to the question of who is truly rich is not what you would expect. It is not the person with the highest number, not the one who climbed furthest, not the name that lands in the right rooms. It is whoever is genuinely content with what they have built. Content not because they stopped wanting, but because what they built is actually theirs, grown honestly, protected wisely, and offered freely to the people they love. That is richness. Everything else is theater, costly, exhausting, and built for an audience that is largely not watching. I have watched people spend entire lifetimes chasing a feeling that the very act of chasing was designed to prevent them from reaching, at the cost of the quiet, unglamorous, deeply real wealth they could have built in the same years. I say this without judgment. I say it with urgency because the years come faster than you expect, and the money you spend on the show today is the independence you will not have when it matters most. Build in silence. Hold more than the world expects you to hold. Spend on what genuinely belongs to your life, not on what you want others to believe your life looks like. Keep a reserve large enough that no single disaster can reach the ground beneath it. And remember, the tree with the deepest roots has no need to announce itself. It simply remains standing, long after the storm has passed, in the space where something built only for display used to be. That is the wisdom. It is old. It belongs to no single culture, no single book, no single era. It has been discovered and rediscovered by every generation of people who chose to think clearly about money rather than feel their way through it. And now it is yours, if you are willing to be quiet enough to use it.